What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Scouting Combine here on the Five Reasons Sports Network. I'm joined by my co-host Eric Smith. Eric, how you doing today, my guy?
I'm doing pretty good. I mean, it's been a long week since the Dolphins played last Thursday night. Still got a couple more days before the Dolphins play again, but at least it's, Thursday again, new NFL week. Got some new football coming on tonight. So
Of
good
course,
day.
and the big news was the Tua Tagovailoa getting injured and getting concussed at the end of not the end, towards the third quarter of the Buffalo Bills game. Didn't look too hot, and now the Dolphins have placed Tua Tagovailoa on IR, so he is most likely going to be out for 4 games. Before we get into a review of this offense this last 2 weeks, what have you know? What have been your thoughts so far of the offense these last 2 weeks, Eric?
Um, it feels like we're kind of stuck in the mud. This was supposed to be a high flying, fast paced offense, and in that first week seemed like there was a lot of screens and a lot of things that felt like it was slowing down the offense. And the hope there was that it was just kind of a setup going into a short week with a Thursday night against the Bills, and we really didn't see the explosive plays I think that we've come to expect from this offense against the Bills. They did look good outside of the turnovers, and the turnovers are obviously huge, but they did a good job moving the ball through the first, 2.5 quarters until Tua got injured. But there's been a lot of inconsistencies, and who knows what to expect going forward here for the next few weeks.
Of course, and taking a look at the deep dive, which we'll review a little bit later today, and you did a pretty good in-depth breakdown of the offensive line, albeit a lot of the fans on Twitter don't really want to agree with you. Someone who actually coaches offensive line play every Thursday or Friday, does all those practices. I I don't know how people are gonna see what this offensive line is for. That's why we have this show. That's why we have these reviews as well. But it is what it is, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I mean, I think one thing to try to keep into perspective is that even on the reviews that I'm doing, like I try to call out where the offensive line is not doing well. Um, and all of those factor into the grading. And then one thing to keep in mind with that is that, when somebody is looking the way that I grade a game, it's not really apples to apples to look at, some of the other sources. Obviously, PFF is the most popular one. We grade the plays differently. The scale that they use to grade each individual play is different than the scale that I use. So the overall result is going to end up different. And there's been some good back and forth on Twitter about some of those plays, and some of the different opinions on there. You're always going to have different opinions, and you know the key is to find the guys that you trust, and that's what I try to do, is to provide examples to trust my opinion. And that's what it is. It's an opinion, not always going to be right, not always going to be black and white. um, but try to get guys to trust what I'm looking at and how I see things.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get right into it. We're gonna go to some third and long plays. We're gonna break down how the offensive line looks on those plays as well. We're gonna be taking a look at the Jacksonville Jaguars game and the Buffalo Bills game here on NFL Pro Plus. If you guys haven't checked this thing out, it's amazing. It's pretty much amazing. Obviously, this first play was the Devon A-Chain play, was a screen play. Not necessarily going to be taking a look at that, but we're going to be taking a look at this incompletion. It was a deep pass over to Tyreek Hill, which led to an incompletion. We'll go ahead and extend this clip up. Here we go. Is this better? This layout better? This layout better? We'll go ahead and do this instead. Shubnum's like, save the Dolphins. I agree. Let's save the Dolphins. But let's go ahead and talk about this play overall. All right. They're right here in 11 personnel with Raheem Mostert as the running back. And I believe that's Durham Smythe in as the tight end. You have Braxton Berrios, Jalen Waddle, and Tyreek Hill. Go ahead and run the play. A bit of a squeeze in there by Tua to Tyreek Hill over there as well. Let's take a look at the play one more time and let's see what route Tyreek is running. He's going to go, he's going to be in between the numbers, try to make the defensive backs hesitate, comes right out, and he's being followed, he's being matched. And everyone is pretty much covered. There's no real enough separation for Tua to make this throw right here to Braxton Berrios, unless he's coming out on an out route. Braxton Berrios falls down right here. Jalen Waddle is getting locked up. And I don't think that's Jalen Waddle. I think that may be Grant Dubois. Grant Dubose, actually. Yep, he's being covered. And the only one left one-on-one right there is Tyreek Hill against 22 Tyson Campbell. And the safety, Andre Cisco, is way back deep there.
Do you know what the down and distance was on this one?
Yeah, it was third and 8 in the first quarter.
So, I mean, this isn't as extreme of an example. I felt like we've got into certain situations this year, and there was a couple of them on Thursday night where they're taking shots where they aren't necessarily needed. And a play like this is kind of the same example. Like they're on the other side of the 50. We don't need a shot play here. If we just get 10, 15 yards here, we're in field goal range. And we saw the same thing happen against the Bills on Thursday night. The third second down before the first interception was another shot play to Tyreek, basically into double coverage. That just really didn't feel necessary. You had a negative run on first down, so you're at 2nd and 13, and you want to look at something to make a third and manageable, and instead you throw into double coverage and basically throw it away and put yourself into a 3rd and 13 situation, which was when the interception happened where it bounced off DeBose's shoulder. Is that what we have up here?
No, this is the interception to DeBose, and we'll go ahead and take a look at this one as well. They're right here in 11 personnel as well. The down and distance is actually 3rd and 13 again. A failed run play on first down. They try to take a shot play on second down as well. Didn't work. You're in a third and pretty much unmanageable situation right there. And the thing is, it's really about getting into manageable situations on third down so that way you don't have to take those shot plays. You're not going back to your bread and butters, which multiple defenses have seen and they have accounted for as well. And a lot of the time, the Jaguars played a lot of cover two men, and the Bills played 20% of cover two as well. The Dolphins have beaters in for cover two, specifically against that first game in the Chargers last season. And Mike McDaniel basically created the cheat motion to beat cover two, but we haven't seen a lot of cheat motion this year. And I feel like that cheat motion could help, but maybe they're trying to make things look different. We'll go ahead and run the play to this Dubose interception. And I believe, this pass play was right on the money where Dubose could catch it, but he ultimately didn't come up with the grab. Back here in 11 personnel, you have 3 pass catchers. You have Berrios, Jonnu, Robbie Chosen, Grant Dubose, and I believe that is Devon Achane. We'll go ahead and run the play. You see that little motion right there by Dubose to gain some leverage on the outside? That basically sets up for some space, and you have Jonnu right here. And if you throw this ball to Jonnu, he could gain some leverage, gain some depth to potentially get some yak, but he's still behind the sticks. You have Braxton Berrios. He's pretty much, covered right here. If you're going to make this throw to Berrios, it better be an out route where he has space, and basically the sideline is acting like another defender to him. But this play is pretty much set up for Tyreek Hill to run this type of play. Right on the money, bounced off the shoulder pad, and led to a pick. Go ahead and run the play one more time. That play was right out there, right on the money. And we'll go ahead and take a look at the route concepts one more time. Berrios is pretty much just straight up going vertical the entire time, and he's coming inside on a post. Robbie Chosen also going vertical. And Jonnu is just sitting down in that soft zone. And the OL, we'll go ahead and back to the OL review as well right here, Eric. The OL play was pretty much decent enough to get Tua some time to throw this ball down the field.
Yeah, you can't get a much better pocket than what he had here. There was no way that anybody could blame this play on the offensive line. My biggest complaint on this play was that this was the first third down play, and you know, where's Waddle? Where's Hill? Like I understand the whole load management thing and trying to keep them fresh for late in the season or even late in the game, but we're looking at the first drive of the game here, and we're targeting probably what's your sixth or seventh option. So I felt like everything was good on that play. I mean, the play call was good, the throw was good, the blocking was good. We just had a receiver who had just arrived to the team that probably didn't expect the ball to come to him and wasn't even looking for it.
All right, this play is up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. The down and distance is 3rd and 16 at the Jacksonville 32-yard line, where Tua Tagovailoa was sacked for 14 yards. And this is pretty much a manageable situation where if you do get some yards, you could settle in for a field goal. And we'll go ahead and run this play one more time for everyone to see. Okay, you are out there in what looks to be empty personnel. All right, you're an empty personnel out wide, everyone lined up. You have 2 defensive backs, 2 safeties, and the linebackers are way out there. It's kind of like, an umbrella coverage with your 2 deep, 2 high safeties right there. Good so far from the offensive line, right, Eric?
I mean, Austin Jackson's looking a little off balance there, but the initial pass sets were okay. You can see that being off balance really cost Jackson on that rep. One thing to keep in mind with this offensive line is that this offensive line was not built for this situation, and obviously you're gonna have this from time to time, but if we get into a situation like we did in the Buffalo game where that's essentially where you're operating from, then it's always going to look really ugly. For as good of a run blocker as Austin Jackson is, and the way that he earned his contract as a run blocker, there's still holes in his game, in his pass blocking game, that I think are probably always going to be there. And I think that's, the reason that the Dolphins were able to get him at the price that they were, as opposed to seeing him test the free agency waters and getting a Hunt type contract. So I think the key to not having plays like that is to try to stay out of those scenarios as often as possible.
All right, this next play is a 3rd and 14 on the Miami 31-yard line. This pass play was ultimately successful. It was a short pass to Devon Achane for 16 yards. Go ahead and run the play. Back there again, you're in 11 personnel with 3 wide receivers. Robbie Chosen, Braxton Berrios, I believe that's Grant Dubois, Devon Achane, and Durham Smythe. Once again, you have your 2 high safeties again. Pretty much a dump off. A lot of space.
Yep, essentially a bunch of clear out routes there with Achane leaking out as a safety valve basically, and he's one of the best in the game at that. You just get him the ball in space, and he's gonna make things happen.
Perfection right there. All right, we're going to get out of some of these 3rd and long plays, and we're going to take a look at some red zone plays. Now, the Dolphins have not had a lot of opportunities to score in the red zone exponentially, and I do think this comes, some criticism to Mike McDaniel from last season. A lot of their touchdowns were 30, 40, or even 20-yard plays, and there was no scenarios where in the red zone, in the goal line, those pass plays actually materialize. And I do think that Mike McDaniel, for the creative genius he is, he's stuck in his own bubble of what plays can work. And I don't think he's expanding his box, expanding his thinking outside the box and trying to get his players in space, especially in the goal line. We'll go ahead on this play. Left end, 1st and 6 right here. Jalen Waddle on the left end. Looks like a heavy formation. You have basically a 21 formation right here with Ingold and Raheem Mostert. Screen pass. Is a screen pass needed in the red zone, Eric? Like with that little amount of space, a screen pass is kind of hard to come by because you don't have much room for error, especially on the blocking play of this, right?
Right. I mean, it's something that you have to practice, right? It's got to be part of the part of the menu. But like we talked about that first week, they just seem to go to it way more often than it felt like they should have. When you're running screen passes, it's actually more difficult when the defense is sitting back the way that they kind of are here, because those defenders have more time to see it. They have more time to avoid those blocks, and that's what you see happening here. Is that whoever that was at the top of the screen on the perimeter there is running out to the block on that corner and just misses completely because the corner has that much time to move and adjust to that block. And it's Tyreek on the corner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm not going to lie. I have been underwhelmed by the blocking of the wide receivers and tight ends as well, specifically in the running game. This offensive line can block well in the running game, but the blocks that Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Braxton Berrios, Robbie Chosen, Durham Smythe, Tanner Connor, Jonnu Smith, they have not held on that well. We'll go ahead on this play right here. 1st and 10, Miami on the Jacksonville 15, 17-14. You're in 21 personnel with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I believe that is Durham Smythe, but it was a penalty on Tyreek Hill. It was basically a holding. And Tyreek Hill was literally trying to hold on to dear life, trying to block as much as he can on this edge rusher. And Alec Ingold on this play, he's going to be the lead blocker, and Jeff Wilson just needs to follow him for that touchdown. And we'll see it on the next All-22, on the next angle of this play right here. Look how inside Tyreek Hill is. I mean, number 91 is sniffing out this play really, really well. I'll go ahead and slow the speed so we can take a look at how the blocks are supposed to materialize here, Eric. You have Smythe as the motion man.
Yep. So Hill is blocking down the defensive end. We've got a combo from the right tackle and right guard up to the linebacker, and then same thing with the center and the left guard. They're comboing as well, and everybody just climbs. It's essentially a version of outside zone where instead of the right tackle blocking down that defensive end, you're using the crack. So we see it called crack toss a lot, and it's the same idea there. It's just out of a I formation instead of putting a lead blocker, in this case Ingold, in motion and getting him out on a lead block.
All right, we have a 3rd and 14 on the goal line as well on Jacksonville 19. It was a pass play and incomplete to Tyreek Hill. All right, they're basically in the pony formation. You have Jonnu Smith, Jalen Waddle, Braxton Berrios, and Tyreek Hill is actually in the pony right here. He's in the backfield, and you have Devon A-Chain onto Tua Tagovailoa's right. And I actually like the use of wide receivers out of the backfield. You use that speed, use that space, and use that creation for your wide receiver that can run the routes really well to get a mismatch on a linebacker and gain some yards after the catch. It's basically, essentially, a wheel route that Tyreek Hill is running here. And we'll take a look at some of the other route concepts. You have Jalen Waddle coming in right here, but you have 1, 2, 3 defenders along the middle of the field, and Braxton Berrios one-on-one. Jonnu Smith is running what looks to be a post. Jalen Waddle falls down. So this play is dead. Jonnu Smith is covered up. The safety is right there. Braxton Berrios is also covered up. So where's Tua going to go? nowhere. Doesn't work. Doesn't work at all. We'll go ahead and look at the play one more time. Where's Tua going to go with the ball right here, Eric? I mean, this is pretty much a covered sack.
I mean, I feel like, we see these pick routes all the time. And when you put Tyreek in the backfield, it creates a situation where the defense has to show pretty early whether it's a man or a zone coverage. And in my opinion, as soon as that player that's lined up as the linebacker there is going over top of Waddle on that route, that ball should have been out to Tyreek right now, using that natural pick to get him open. Instead, I think that Tua waits a little longer, thinking that Waddle's going to break to the inside there, and like you said, he falls to the ground,
Right.
And not able to get.
And John was actually calling for the ball right there too. Nope, nothing materializes on this end. Nothing materializes on this end. All right, the next one is up against Buffalo. 1st and 1 right here. And this play right here is a penalty. Now, the Dolphins have been called for 20 false starts or holdings that have negated a lot of the Dolphins' plays and explosive plays right there. All right, we'll go ahead and run the play right here. They're in a pistol formation. You have 2 tight ends. You have Durham Smythe, Tanner Connor. You have 2 wide receivers. You have Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. This is essentially a 22 personnel package right here. It's going to be a run, and A-Chain is stopped right short. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the blocking up front here, Eric. All right. So while Eric is out, again, there's not a lot of space for blocks to actually materialize and for the play to materialize right here. We're going to go ahead. It's going to be 5 men again. You have Aaron Brewer, Leon Eichenberg, Austin Jackson, Rob Jones, and Teron Armstead. Go ahead and run the play, and it looks to be a combination of combo blocks. The left guard and center are working up the middle. Teron Armstead has to take Terrell Bernard right here. And I believe what happens is Terrell Bernard is actually going to shoot the gap right here, and Taylor Rapp, the Bills safety, is also going to try and shoot the gap. And he gets a hand on Devon A-Chain and slips right there. Tyreek Hill actually misses on the block right there. So it's not an offensive line issue, Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, and that was exactly the note that I had on that one also. The way that the Bills were playing this was, the read for A-Chain was going to be a cutback, and all we needed for Tyreek there was just to get a piece of that linebacker, and A-Chain would have been able to fall. And
Yep. All right. Another goal line play right here. Second quarter with 12 seconds left to the half, 24-7. Miami could have scored a touchdown to cut the lead down to 10, but instead they could only kick a field goal. Once again, in the defensive backfield, you have 2 high safeties as well. They're going to be rushing 4. They're going to be playing, I believe it's going to be 3 under, 2 above. You have 3 under, 2 above as well. It's basically like a shell coverage right here. Go ahead and run the play. You have Jonnu Smith, Braxton Berrios, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Jeff Wilson out there. Austin Jackson just gets met with the speed rush of Von Miller, and he actually takes him all the way to the outside. Same way with Teron Armstead. The Bills get their speed rushers out there, and it's almost like a contained rush right there. And Tua has to step up into the pocket. He's got to throw the ball. And where he's throwing the ball, he's trying to throw it to Jonnu towards the sideline so that way they can get closer and save some time, save some clock, so that way they can run another play. And he just throws it outside. We'll go ahead and take a look at the route concepts one more time. You have Tyreek Hill going vertical, Jalen Waddle on a quick out route. Braxton Berrios is pretty much covered up as well. Tua could have tried to throw to the corner route to Braxton Berrios, but the safety was pretty much closing in. I believe this was the right decision by Tua Tagovailoa, but play call wise, man, this is just kind of hard to get a touchdown out of this. You need a touchdown right there. Tyreek is doubled up. You have the safeties covering the end zone right here. This corner out to Braxton Berrios would be a tight throw, and just an unsuccessful play call right there.
Yeah, I mean, on this one, there was 12 seconds left in the half. There were no timeouts left in the half, so I think that this was probably a one read type thing. And if it wasn't there, then Tua had the instructions to throw it out of bounds, and that's exactly what they did to kick the field goal after that.
All right, 3rd and 8, 31-10 on the third quarter. Miami's on Buffalo 8. Again, they're at the goal line. You have Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, I believe that's Tanner Connor, Braxton Berrios, and Jeff Wilson. We'll go ahead and run the play. You have Braxton Berrios right there on what looks to be a whip route, and Berrios falls. I think the big theme, Eric, is that the wide receivers and tight ends on where Tua and Skylar Thompson need them the most, they're not showing up.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that was another one of those scenarios that, that was the drive that Tua had went out. It was 3rd and 8 on that play. And it very much felt like a one read type throw where they were trying to hit Tyreek in the corner of the end zone. It wasn't there. So he ended up throwing out of bounds where, it's 3rd and 8. You know that you're going for it on 4th down. I feel like there's better play calls that could have given you an option, for a touchdown. But if it's not there, it's not just a throwaway. You can still try to get to a 4th and 4, 4th and 3 with a goal to go scenario instead of throwing that ball away and then having a 4th and 8 that's very difficult with a goal to go situation.
All right, we're going to go ahead and take a look at some successful run plays right here of 10-plus yards. And the Dolphins have only had 8 10-plus rushing yards through 2 weeks of the season. Through 2 weeks of last season, they actually had, I believe, 14 10-plus successful rushes. So it's looking like this offense is going in a backwards direction, and we're trying to figure out why right here. Our NFL defense is just catching on. Is Mike McDaniel, calling plays too conservatively? We'll go ahead and take a look right here. They are in 11 personnel as well. You basically have, bunch formations, not bunch formations, but stacked formation with the 2 wide receivers in Braxton Berrios and Jalen Waddle. Tyreek Hill was the lone X receiver right here. Motion man Durham Smythe, he's going to come out on a boomerang, and it's a Tua Tagovailoa run up the middle. Let's go ahead and take a look at this route concept right here. All right, there you go. You basically have a switch up from Jalen Waddle coming inside, then he goes back outside. Right here at the top of the screen. He's going in and then works his way out. The defensive back gets his hand on him, and Jalen Waddle is pretty much covered up. You have Braxton Berrios, who's coming out towards the sideline. But again, Tua was facing that pressure, and he could have stepped up into the pocket, but the route was taking too long to materialize for Braxton Berrios. The rush was coming, and Tua just steps up in the pocket. He's like, hey, I got some room to run. I'll go ahead and take it. And that's a positive win from Tua Tagovailoa right there, just gaining the yards that he needs to.
Yeah, and that's why you see with mobile quarterbacks, you see teams kind of avoid man coverage for that exact reason. I mean, Tua is not the most athletic quarterback, but you can see there that guy in the middle is vacating with HN going to the sideline, and it leaves a big gaping hole that Tua can get a first down on. But you look at some of the other quarterbacks in the NFL, and it could be a much bigger play in those man-to-man scenarios.
Yep, the offensive line pretty much slid all the way over to the right and kept throwing Armstead on an island, which left that gaping hole right there by the B gap. So it was pretty good. All right, this is going to be a Devon A-Chain right end for 14 yards, and this was a 1st and 15 play right here. And the Dolphins ran the ball pretty well up against the Buffalo Bills, and honestly, I do feel like the Dolphins need to continuously pound the rock and run the ball, especially on, 2nd and short and 3rd and short as well. They just need to get the right play call there. We're going to go ahead and take a look at some of these runs on 3rd downs a little bit later. It's basically like a fake and a pitch over, which we've seen the Dolphins do multiple times. We'll go ahead and take a look at the other angle to take a look at how the offensive linemen were able to do their blocks. All right, Eric, take it away.
Yeah, so again, we're going to get that same crack toss concept here. We've got the player on the edge, I think it was Ingold maybe there, blocking down on that defensive end. You have, there's that Tanner Connor, whoever. And then you have the guy at the wing.
Julian Hill.
Okay, Julian Hill. And then you have the wing getting out the lead block. You got Austin Jackson going around. And then everybody else is essentially running outside zone there and just trying to cut guys off. Definitely a play that the Dolphins have been very successful with. I like that they're using some bigger bodies there because we talked about earlier with Tyreek trying to make those blocks. If a defense knows it's coming and you have one of those smaller guys, then it's not that hard to blow it up. But when you get more of a tight end or fullback body type in there, even if they recognize it early, you've still got a chance to get to the edge.
So could that potentially be a reason why they have Tyreek Hill and sometimes Jalen Waddle off the field to basically throw defenses off and basically say, hey, we're running this play, but hey, instead we're actually passing. We're trying to get into a single high look so that way you can come back over to the line of scrimmage, and then we're going to go make a shot play and throw it over the top. But that actually hasn't worked out at all. And is this a Mike McDaniel thing, or is this just a play call execution kind of thing?
Yeah, I think there's definitely some teeth to that theory. I think the problem is that the players are going to in those situations. I mean, you have Janu Smith, you've got Devon Achane, and yet we're throwing those passes to the Robbie Chosens and the Grant DeBoses. I mean, even, right now I would consider Julian Hill a better option in the passing game before I would look to target, Robbie Anderson or Robbie Chosen, whatever he is now, and Grant DeBose. Now, Grant DeBose and Robbie Chosen do have the size that you want, and DeBose seems to be a really good blocker compared to what we've seen at receiver. Chosen has the size to do it, but I'm not sure that he ever really had the desire to do it. And that's probably the main reason that he's not able to stay on the team is that, despite being a bigger body, he's not the type of blocker that they need.
Right. We'll go ahead into some personnel tendencies right here, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at the pass and run splits on 11, 12, 21, and 22 personnel, the primary personnel groupings that the Dolphins run, and give a little bit of insight right here. All right. So on 11 personnel, the Dolphins are just outside the top 10 in EPA rank. Their overall EPA rank is 11th with a 0.1 EPA. When they are passing the ball, they have a positive EPA, a 0.07, which ranks 16th, middle of the pack. When they're running the ball out of 11 personnel, and that 11 personnel obviously can include guys like Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Braxton Berrios on the field. It could be Robbie Chosen, Grant DuBose, Braxton Berrios on the field, with your tight ends either being Jonnu Smith or Durham Smythe. I can't necessarily filter out those players on Sumer Sports, but you're getting the general idea of it. When they're running the ball out of 11 personnel, they are the 3rd best team doing that. But they only run the ball 20% of the time in 11 personnel. So that's too little of a sample size to say, hey, let's keep running the ball on 11. Let's keep running the ball on 11 personnel. But let's take a look at what happens when they run the ball early on 11 personnel on those 1st or 2nd downs. 0.45 EPA per rush, They're the best team in the league doing that. Best team in the league doing that. And they run the ball 25% of the time, and they're the best team in the NFL doing that out of 11 personnel. And they only use 11 personnel 15% of the time, and they're the 32nd ranked team doing that. So they don't even use 11 personnel at all. Do they need to use more 11 personnel, Eric?
I think I think they'd like to use more 11 personnel, but when we talk about, we just got done talking about Chosen and the Bows.
53 plays out of 11 personnel.
Yeah. I think it comes down to who your third receiver is in that 11 personnel. I think that the success on early downs makes sense with that because especially when you have Tyreek and Waddle on the field in that 11 personnel package, you've got to respect them and you can't, crowd the line of scrimmage. So it creates more lanes for some of the backs that we have that have the speed and helps to open up some natural lanes. I think that as they continue to have that success, that we will, see a higher percentage of that package as the more ideal number 3 receivers get healthy, and we can, not be putting Grant DeBose out there in those 11 personnel packages.
Yeah, and I do think that third wide receiver is pretty key. You take a look at, the offenses who have good third pass catching options or third wide receivers. Take a look at the San Francisco 49ers. They use CMC as their third best wide receiver. You take a look at the Minnesota Vikings, right? They have Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. Now they can have Aaron Jones in the backfield catching passes, and they also have TJ Hawkinson that can catch the ball from the tight end position and split out wide. The Miami Dolphins, while they do have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, they're trying to utilize Devon Achane more in the passing game until Odell Beckham Jr. comes back. When they try to throw to Braxton Berrios, it's led to incompletions or an interception. When they try to throw to Grant Dubois, incompletion or an interception bouncing off of his shoulder, and it's not working. Like those turnovers in the Buffalo Bills game, the Dolphins were there. They were en route to scoring, and then that turnover just sets them away. And then just that pick six by Tua, he just couldn't get the ball out to the sideline. That's just what it was. And now with Tua Tagovailoa out, what are the Dolphins going to do with Skylar Thompson? Are they going to continuously run the ball? Are they going to be in 11 personnel more? Are they going to lean on their philosophy of 21 personnel, run the ball, do play action, and get some shot plays in there? And that's going to, Mike McDaniel is going to have to get creative over there because I do think this offense runs through Tua Tagovailoa, and he's able to uplift a lot of the offensive line deficiencies and the wide receiver and tight end deficiencies, specifically in the pass game. Eric, what are your thoughts?
So I think that the offense it's absolutely going to look different. Like you said, it's not, the Tua's offense is going to look much different than what Skylar Thompson's offense does. One of the things that they have going for the Dolphins is that Skylar Thompson has been in this system for 3 years now. And this is the first time that I can remember the Dolphins have had the same offensive coordinator for 3 years. So Skylar Thompson knows this system well. And Mike McDaniel knows over those 3 years the type of stuff that Skylar Thompson does well in this system. So, we're really going to find out how much of an offensive genius Mike McDaniel is because – we're not looking at an offense that's in year one and we're still trying to install the core concepts of it, and then we're changing the quarterback. We are in the third year. We have all of those core concepts installed, and now we, just have to change gears with it a little bit. And I have no idea what that's going to look like. I am optimistic because I do feel that Mike McDaniel is a very creative play caller and that Skylar Thompson has a good grasp on the offense. I think we're going to see the pocket moving a lot more than it did. I think we're going to see, some more QB runs, not necessarily designed ones, but Thompson scrambling for downs more than we saw with Tua. They're obviously going to need to lean heavily on that running game. And I don't think that's a bad thing because, they ran for, right at 100 yards against the Bills. It was working well. It's just that the game situation took them away from being able to do that. So I look forward to them hopefully being able to stay in those situations where the running game can still carry the offense, and we're not asking Skylar Thompson to play from behind.
Yeah. This Dolphins offense, and specifically this offensive line and this team, is not built to play from behind. They're built to play with the lead. And fortunately enough, these last 2 weeks, this defense has been able to carry the load so that way the offense can be in better positions to score. And I do think up against the Seattle Seahawks, they're going to rely heavily on this defense and this running game. Going up against, a top-rated Buffalo Bills defense who are ranked 10th against the run in terms of EPA per rush, they were able to put up almost 100 yards of rushing offense and a touchdown, bodes well. The Seattle Seahawks are 20th up against the rush in rush EPA, and the success rate, they are 10th in. So if they need to get 1 or 2 yards on third down, it may be hard to come by, but if they're able to gain yards on first and second down and be in third and manageable, and Mike McDaniel is able to concoct some plays up for Tyreek Hill, Devon Achane, Jalen Waddle in the pass game, or even Jonnu Smith on a quick out route or a screen pass or whatever it is to gain 1 or 2 yards, that can work, that can happen. But ultimately, it's going to come up in the red zone. What can he concoct up for Skylar Thompson and this passing game? That's going to be the biggest question up against the Seattle defense.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Seattle's a good team, but when you look at the fronts that the Dolphins have faced these first 2 weeks in the Jaguars and the Bills, it's not the same level of defensive front that they're going to face this week. I think that when I was watching the Patriots and the Seahawks game, getting ready for this, I don't think that Geno Smith gets enough credit for what he's doing there. And after seeing him play for the Jets, that's still kind of crazy to see or to say. But he's not spectacular, but he's doing a lot of things for that offense. It's keeping them on schedule, and they're the same type of team. Like they can't afford to play from behind, but if they can stay in games, they can be dangerous. And the Dolphins defense still seeing some coverage breakdowns here or there. We saw that once with a long pass. It looked like it was against Jalen Ramsey to the tight end along the right side of the field, almost a touchdown. And when we look back at it, it looks more like Holland may have jumped a route as a deep safety and left Ramsey out to dry on that. But those are the types of things that we expected with this new defense. And now, of course, both teams are going against defensive coordinators in the same, from the same system.
Right. And if you take a look at the defensive coordinators from the same system and you compare the teams, the Dolphins are 25th in defensive EPA per play. The Seattle Seahawks are 7th. Okay. Up against the pass, the Dolphins are 31st against the pass, and the Seattle Seahawks are 5th. Against the rush, the Dolphins defense and EPA is 6th best, while the Seattle Seahawks rushing defense is 20th. They're going to have to run the dang ball, Eric. They're going to have to run the dang ball.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a game plan that does not involve running the ball well for the Dolphins is just a recipe for disaster. If we're in a situation where we're asking Skylar Thompson to throw the ball 30 or 40 times, then, there's a good chance that it's going to be a really long flight home. For all the complaints about the offensive line, this is one where we really need them to step up. We need them to, keep it in manageable down and distance and not ask Skylar Thompson to do, more than what he's capable of.
Yeah. Tyreek Hill is going to have to block well. Jalen Waddle is going to have to block well. Jonnu Smith, Durham Smythe, the tight end group has to block well. Alec Ingold has had some whiff blocks as well. He's going to have to block well. And Devon Achane, and if Raheem Mostert is healthy, if he's able to play, they're going to lean on that 3 to maybe even 4-headed running back group with Jalen Wright and Jeff Wilson as well. All right, folks, stick with us here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. The Scouting Combine is signing off in about 10 minutes inside Leverage with Alfredo Arteaga. We'll get you ready to preview the Dolphins and Seahawks game. As always, guys, Fins up.
Have a good one.